I like it because I know one thing for certain is that if you do get married, you must commit yourself to that.
Cliff Richard loved one woman for 50 years. She married his best friend, then she married someone else, and later, she died in his arms. He never married anyone or had children. He just kept singing while carrying the biggest heartbreak in British music history. In 2014, police raided his home, but they weren't the first to hurt him. The BBC had already made a secret deal against him. The accusations were false, but they caused real damage. He lost weight, got shingles, and struggled to sleep. He said his home felt contaminated. The man who once filled Wembley Stadium was afraid to leave his house. Early life in a changing world. Harry Roger Webb was born in King George's Hospital in Lucknow, British India, on October 14, 1940. World War II was ongoing at that time, and India was moving toward independence. In 1946, riots occurred during Direct Action Day, leading many British families, including the Webbs, to leave India. Harry's father worked in the colonial system, but by 1948, it was clear that the British Empire was ending. The Webbs did not leave by car or plane. They took a slow, crowded ship across the Indian Ocean. The SS Ranchi carried them and many other British families away from their home. The journey lasted 3 long weeks. They went from a sunny life in India to experiencing rationing and cold weather in England. After the war, England was still recovering. The Webbs settled in a small house in Carshalton, Surrey. They lost their spacious rooms and warm evenings. This change was difficult for a boy who knew comfort, but it strengthened him. This journey motivated him to prove himself and build a better life in a new country. Soon, Harry Webb began to disappear from the spotlight. A talent manager named Harry Greatrex noticed him. He had a good sense of music trends. He told Harry, "You need a name that sounds like rock." He suggested the name Cliff because it sounded strong and solid, like a cliff. He added Richard to honor Little Richard, the famous American rock star. Harry Webb was no more. Cliff Richard emerged and changed British music forever. The birth of a rock star. On August 29, 1958, Cliff Richard released a song called Move It. The song was loud and rebellious, standing out from the clean pop music of that time. At just 18 years old, Cliff became a rock star. Move It reached number 2 on the UK charts and made a significant impact. For the first time, British teenagers had a rock star who created original music rather than imitating American artists. This song set the stage for future bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. The excitement didn't stop with the music. When Cliff went on tour that year, fans went wild. Girls screamed, cried, and fainted, while boys felt jealous of his fame. Security had a tough time managing the crowds. The chaos resembled the excitement around Elvis, but it took place in London, Manchester, and Leeds. The media called it Cliff Hysteria, and newspapers and record labels loved it. In 1959, the excitement continued. Cliff released Living Doll, even though he didn't like it because he thought it sounded too soft. He told his producer, "I hated it." The band turned it into a slow, country-style ballad. It topped the charts for 6 weeks and sold 770,000 copies. In November, he received a silver disc, which was gold by January. Then came Travelin' Light, which reached number 1 and spent 5 weeks at the top. Cliff sold over 1 million records between these 2 songs, a first for anyone in Britain. Hollywood calling and film success. In 1959, Cliff got the opportunity to work in Hollywood. He acted in a serious film called Serious Charge, which addressed topics like homosexuality and false accusations. At 19 years old, many people were surprised he took on this role. The following year, he starred in Espresso Bongo, a comedy that made fun of the music industry. These roles showed that Cliff wanted to be more than a teen idol. He wanted to grow as an actor beyond his singing career, which was unusual for British pop stars then. On January 10, 1963, the film Summer Holiday premiered in London. About 3,000 fans showed up in Leicester Square, and Cliff couldn't even get out of his car. He missed the premiere, but it didn't matter. The movie's soundtrack reached number 1 on the UK albums chart before the film opened nationwide. It stayed at number 1 for 14 weeks. Several songs from the film, like The Next Time, Bachelor Boy, and Summer Holiday, also reached the top of the charts. The Shadows' instrumental Foot Tapper hit number 1 too. Summer Holiday became the second biggest British box office hit in 1963, just after From Russia with Love. That same year, people voted Cliff the most popular film star in the UK, rivalry with the Beatles. But the Beatles arrived, and many thought Cliff Richard would be forgotten. However, in 1964, during Beatlemania, Cliff released 6 top 10 hits while the Beatles managed only 5. His songs like Constantly, On the Beach, and I Could Easily Fall in Love with You kept him popular. Even as the Beatles changed music and took America by storm, Cliff stayed strong in Britain. The competition was tough. His movie Summer Holiday and The Beatles' A Hard Day's Night competed at cinemas nationwide. Both films were successful, but British audiences remembered Cliff's earlier success. Paul McCartney recognized this, saying that the Beatles went to Hamburg because Cliff had locked down the British market. John Lennon said it clearly. Before Cliff Richard and Move It, there was nothing worth listening to in England. In 1965, something surprising happened. New Musical Express held a poll asking fans to choose the world's top male singer. Cliff beat Elvis, Lennon, and McCartney. That year, the Beatles released Help. In addition, Rubber Soul, while Elvis continued to sell out shows. Yet, Cliff won. Why? Because he continued to change with the times without trying to copy the Beatles. He balanced pop ballads, faith-based films, and his natural charm. He was consistent. For fans worldwide, this mattered. He was their steady star, before and long after the British invasion, the Christian conversion. In June 1966, Cliff Richard surprised many people by announcing that he had become a Christian. He made this announcement at Earl's Court while standing beside American evangelist Billy Graham in front of thousands of fans. This bold move shocked fans who saw him as a British version of Elvis or Little Richard. Some cried, while others could hardly believe it. The musician known for his rebellious spirit had taken a surprising turn. This moment was not random. It followed a spiritual journey that began 2 years earlier. Speaking at Billy Graham's event during the swinging 60s added significance to his message. Rock stars at that time rarely talked about God. They were expected to rebel. Cliff's announcement challenged the idea of what a pop star should be. Panic spread quickly. Some fans feared this meant the end of his music career. People in the music industry said he might quit and become a teacher. Cliff even thought about leaving music, believing he couldn't be a faithful Christian and still be in the spotlight. Music magazines speculated about who would replace him. Booking agents hesitated. The industry thought you couldn't have faith and be a star. For a while, Cliff had doubts too. But then, everything changed. Cliff stayed in music instead of disappearing, creating a new path. He didn't give up on his faith or his music. Instead, he found a way to mix the two. He became the first major UK pop star to live his faith while still making music openly. No one had done this before. He showed that sharing beliefs and performing for large audiences was possible. This choice was not just about keeping his career alive, it changed who he was. Cliff later said that his rock and roll image was not real. He lacked confidence and was pretending. After he became a Christian, he felt a change. He stated, "My confidence grew, my attitude changed. It wasn't important to be right all the time. The pressure to fit a particular image faded. He felt free to be himself." This new confidence improved his performances even as the Beatles and other acts dominated the charts. While others struggled, Cliff became stronger because he finally felt like himself. Career low and comeback. By the mid-1970s, Cliff Richard's career was struggling. In 1975, he had no songs on the charts for the first time, and many thought his career was over. In April 1976, he released Devil Woman. This song was louder and darker than his earlier work. It told a story about a psychic, a curse, and a stray cat. The song reached 9 in the UK and 6 in the US, marking his first top 10 hit in America. It sold over 2 million copies, signaling a comeback. Rock legends like Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and Elton John supported him by wearing "I'm Nearly Famous" badges. One critic even said Cliff's new album was as good as Marvin Gaye's best music. This was not just a comeback, it was a transformation. The clean-cut kid from the 50s was now considered a serious rock artist. In 1987, he released Always Guaranteed, a modern pop album that had 4 top 40 singles and sold over 1.3 million copies. The following year, his holiday song Mistletoe and Wine debuted at number 7, went to number 1 for 4 weeks and sold 750,000 copies in 6 weeks, making it the biggest UK single of 1988. In May 1989, Cliff made history by releasing his 100th single, The Best of Me, celebrating with 2,000 fans at the London Palladium. The song peaked at number 2 in the UK. Later that year, he performed at Wembley Stadium in a concert called The Event, where he showcased many hits. Cliff received the Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music in 1989. He became the only artist to have #1 hits across 5 decades. By 1990, he participated in a large charity concert with stars like Paul McCartney and Elton John at Knebworth Park. In December 1990, his song Savior's Day reached #1. His most excellent hits album, Private Collection 1979 to 1988, became his biggest seller, showing his lasting appeal in a changing music industry. In 1999, Cliff released The Millennium Prayer. However, major radio stations mostly ignored the song, saying it lacked broad appeal while still playing hits from artists like Tina Turner and Shania Twain. Fans were upset and protested outside the BBC. Despite this, the song went to #1 in the UK for 3 weeks, showing that loyal fans could make a difference without major label support. It raised significant money for the Children's Promise charity and did well in Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. Cliff's personal life was also complicated. He had deep, unrequited feelings for Olivia Newton-John, whom he met on his TV show in 1971. She got engaged to his bandmate, Bruce Welch, leading to an emotional relationship filled with rumors about Cliff's feelings for her. Despite the challenges, Cliff and Olivia kept a strong professional relationship, working on popular duets for over 40 years, including Suddenly. Tragically, just 3 weeks before Olivia passed away in August 2022, Cliff had a cheerful phone call with her. After her death, he expressed his sadness, choosing to say she had stopped living as a way to cope with losing his lifelong friend. The 2014 police raid scandal. On August 14, 2014, Cliff Richard was relaxing in Portugal when he saw something shocking on TV. Police were raiding his home in Berkshire and helicopters were flying overhead. At first, he thought they were burglars, but this was not a robbery. It was a police raid broadcast live worldwide due to a secret deal between the BBC and South Yorkshire Police. The BBC knew about the raid ahead of time and called it the money shot. They wanted drama, and they got it. Meanwhile, Cliff Richard, a 77-year-old national icon with a clean record, felt devastated. He sobbed in his kitchen as footage of the raid spread across many countries. During his testimony in court, he cried as he listed the countries that invaded his privacy. The stress made Cliff feel like he might have a heart attack or stroke. This nightmare began with one accusation. A man in his 40s claimed Cliff assaulted him during a Billy Graham rally in 1985 at Bramall Lane Stadium, which had 200,000 attendees over 5 nights. The claim quickly fell apart as the man described a room that did not exist, and police ignored statements from the officers guarding Cliff that night. The investigation lasted almost 2 years, cost taxpayers $800,000, and led to no charges. During this time, the BBC submitted its coverage of the raid for an award and even earned an extra $20,000 in court damages for its arrogant and humiliating actions. The impact on Cliff was severe. He fell into depression, developed shingles, and felt unsafe in his own home. He even found it impossible to release an album because he was viewed only as a headline. Cliff received $400,000 in damages from South Yorkshire Police for illegally alerting the BBC, but no apology could erase his trauma. The BBC's legal costs totaled nearly $2 million. Cliff felt upset by the Crown Prosecution Service's explanation of insufficient evidence, as it seemed there were still doubts about him. He expressed pain over being publicly named and the lasting harm to his reputation. In July 2018, Cliff won his case against the BBC. The judge ruled that his right to privacy had been seriously violated. This critical decision changed how the media reports on police investigations. However, for Cliff, it was about surviving and seeking justice, as he could never get back the 2 years of his life affected by the media frenzy.